Two Guys in the Dark.
In college, I had gotten an apartment with 3 dudes. I happened to be a girl. It was art school, so something crazy as expected, but this went above and beyond. These were nice guys, if a little immature. There were some annoying but hardly newsworthy points of contention. They never washed a single dish, filled the house with shit that they found at the dump, played insanely loud music. Then one of them, never a poster child for mental health, really began to lose it. It started with him getting a turtle. He kept the turtle in a tank full of water with an enormous cement block sticking halfway out of it, forgiving the purpose of giving the turtle something to climb up on. He claimed the turtle's tank, cleaned it himself, and brought the turtle worms to eat. Turtles don't eat worms. But my roommate didn't throw worms out. Instead, he kept putting the jars of worms in the kitchen. One day, we woke up to find that he emptied the jars of worms into the bathtub so that they could live there with their brethren. What? I started staying at friends' places because this roommate had come home one day with a trumpet and began playing it at all hours of the night. One morning, I come home to find this roommate had gone into my room, slashed at various possessions with a hunting knife, smeared paint on my walls, put onions in my bed, and left open containers of alcohol everywhere. When I confronted him, he said, "Miss Bean, you can't stay out all night and then come home and expect me not to have gone into your room and done some stuff." As I planned and executed my escape, my roommate's shenanigans continued. Among his offenses, he left the turpentine on the stove with the stove on 2 separate times. He left every single faucet in the house running full blast, left the front door open, and then left the apartment unattended. He laminated live goldfish to the kitchen table. When I talked to my other roommates about the crazy one, there was some general shifting from foot to foot. Some half-hearted agreements that the situation was out of hand, but a general unwillingness to deal with the situation with the defense, he's our boy. What are we supposed to do? Then they finally get evicted. They all went for a semester abroad, and I was left with all their insane, coddling mothers calling me and blaming me while I dealt with the landlords and everything else. In 2002, I went to university in Edinburgh. Initially, I was quite anxious, as it was quite away from where I'm from, which is New England. And I was the only one that I knew going there. But it is a beautiful city, and student life is great. Turns out, anyway, that Edinburgh University doesn't really present much of a cross-section of Scottish society, being largely made up, as it is, of rich English people from Surrey, eager to try out the snowy wastelands on Daddy's tab. Cue to the end of my second year. My group of friends and I are choosing who lives with who, as we move from halls to flats. My course is pretty intensive, so 9 out of 10 times, I would have to turn down any invitation for a night out, or a party. Hence, my name was not too high up on people's wish list when it came to populating their soon-to-be Uber party pad. So I got lumbered with 3 other guys. Now 2 of these guys are fine. One, Joe, a rather wealthy boy, was unknown to me, and as you'll see, turned out to be a bit of a shit. We got lucky with our flat, super close to the new Parliament, and with 3 floors for 4 people. The rent was undervalued hugely because it was brand new, and we were the first tenants ever. Everything was gleaming. It was worth about $500K apparently. Not bad for 270 each in Edinburgh. So got everything signed, and went to our prospective homes for the summer to work, except for Jay, who decided to hang around for summer and enjoy the festival. The last I saw of him is when I leave for home, having just put all of my coursework, architecture models, computer stuff, etc. into my room and locking the bedroom door behind me. About a month later, I'm heading up to Edinburgh with 2 friends. We decided to celebrate my birthday by having a week in the festival. Why not? I've already paid for the rent. On the train up, I get a phone call from one of our other flatmates telling me that he's moving out. What, I ask him, a tad surprised and concerned. It's the flat, man. It's screwed up. Joe's fucked it all up, he says. It doesn't sound good. So I tell him that I'll check it out for myself, and not to tell Joe that I'm coming. We arrive in Waverly, walk the short distance to the flat, and get ready for what awaits us. The plan was set. Go quietly straight up to my room on the top floor. Leave our stuff, and then have a look around. Up we go. As I reach the top of the stairs, I notice something different about my bedroom door. There seems to be only half of it left on the hinges. The rest is splintered across the floor. We go into my room. There are 3 tussled but empty sleeping bags. I stepped on a used condom. I survey the room. My flatmate's description was accurate. It's fucked up. The blinds have been torn and snapped off the wall. The en-suite, which was a nice flat, as I say, brand new up until now, was a tip. Piss was everywhere. Smears of what I can only assume to be shit along the shower walls. The shower head is smashed and hanging like a New York payphone. I open up my wardrobe. Coursework. Crumpled all into a ball. Architecture models, completely destroyed. My computer. Side has come off, and one of the jumpers has been shoved inside out. On inspection, the insides have been smashed. Time to go see Joe. We go down to the kitchen via the living room. The living room is off the kitchen with double doors. Pretty much one huge space. Walking in, we see about 10 sleeping bags and a mattress. We had no furniture at this stage. In the corner is a comatose Joe, half on the mattress, half on the floor. His head being on the floor. We step over him and then enter the kitchen. What follows was the most breathtaking sight that I've ever seen. Scattered amongst the spilled beans and can of beer were a large pile of cocaine, the scale of which can be only described as Scarface. The remnants about 50 lines, a bag of ketamine, 5 large bags of pills, 2 ounces of weed, many discarded pieces of foil with burn marks. The fridge is ajar. It's full to the point that it won't even close, of mushrooms. And there, in the middle of all of this, is one used syringe. I walk over to Joe to go wake him up. His eyes are deep pink. His expression on seeing me standing over him was priceless. Imagine your expression if your dad had walked in on you wanking over a picture of your mother. That's the kind of shock, shame, and fear in his eyes right now. He stares directly at me. I stare at him. Finally, he pipes up. What the fuck are you doing in my flat? Come again? Get out, man. This is my flat now. You can screw off. Go find yourself another place to stay. This went on for a little while, me pointing out the obvious, him still tripping off his tits, telling me to get out of his newly conquered territory. I'll cut this bit down, as this is getting pretty long. Basically, I looked for another flat. Eventually, I realized that I've got a good one, as it is, and shouldn't have been spending my birthday flat hunting because he decided to screw up our current flat. I decided that I'd better get the landlords involved with this. We met the very next day outside of the flat. We were staying at my mate's in the meantime. On the way, we walked down Prince's Street. We saw something rather bizarre. Some guy leaning forward off of a traffic light post in the middle of the road, staring at oncoming traffic as if wanting a fight. He then lets go and runs straight to the oncoming cars. Cue all the beeping, running over bonnets, and narrowly avoiding a bus, all while half-baked and screaming wahoo. Weird, but it is festival time after all. Anyways, I explained everything to them. They were shocked, but to their credit, understanding. They appreciated the honesty and the chance to save their expensive new property. We say thanks and stand back as they enter the flat. Now, you know that scene from Ratatouille where the woman's ceiling falls down and 10,000 rats come flooding out of the house? Yeah, it was like that, but with Spanish and French people. Some half naked, some fully, all screwed up and running as if RoboCop himself had just walked in. I've never seen so many bouncing dreadlocks in all of my life. After about 5 minutes, it's pretty quiet except for a shouting, whimpering exchange. Then just as things look like they're coming to a close, someone sprints past us heading for the flat, bumping us on the way. Woohoo! The half-naked guy pelts straight in, ready to join the party. About 3 seconds later, he comes running out again, minus the woohoo. So yeah, the karma is, he got kicked out. He lost many friends, and screwed up his degree. The only standout moment, though, was when my friends and I were sitting in my bedroom window a few minutes later. I was enjoying the fact that I no longer had to face flat hunting at the worst time of the year, or possibly be homeless, while my mates were happy to be watching the spectacle, as Joe slinked away, his girlfriend in tow. He looked back, and we all gave him a wave. A few years back when I was in college, I had an apartment with some guys, and we figured that we should get a house. The downside was that we needed an extra person, as we had 4 people, and the place was a 5-bedroom. So in my friend's most brilliant moment, he gets his girlfriend of 2 years to join us. At first, me and the other 2 didn't think that it was a great idea, until we saw that there were 2 separate leases for the house. Great, we thought. Us 3 can be downstairs, and they can go upstairs. Cut to the summer, and they break up, as we kind of expected. It was okay at first, but then the guy, who I'll call S, starts playing World of Warcraft and acting reclusive. They both started dating other people, and the girl, who I will call C, usually kept away when she was with her new guy. He had an old Bowflex upstairs and would do some weightlifting, but seemed to only do 2 reps at a time, and always let the weight slam down, which just made me wonder how long it'd be till he hurt himself. After his workouts, he would grunt a lot and walk naked past her door. He also had a massive pile of used tissues that just sat on his desk near his monitor, apart from blowing his nose, and the other, well, I don't want to think about it. His floor was always covered in cans, clothing, books, and whatever else, to the point that you couldn't see the floor anymore. We aren't sure if he showered more than once a month during this period as well. He also played WoW till about 4 every single night, vent blasting so loud that we could hear the voices throughout the entire house. We eventually fixed this by unhooking the cable modem, which we located in my other friend's bedroom. To this day, we aren't sure if he ever figured it out, considering that we could hear him yelling, "Oh, god damn it! Inside cable sucks. How does it always cut out on me at night?" So more and more time has passed. C continued to ignore him and tell us stories of his walking around naked, leaving her notes, starting up painfully awkward conversations with her, stuff like that. He had written her poetry a few times that was incredibly awful, and barely legible most of the time. We would throw quite a few parties, and he would come downstairs to the main floor halfway through the party, and then take a few swigs out of a bottle, and then run back upstairs to go play WoW. We tried to even take the party up there by bringing maybe 10 people upstairs to dance in his room while he played, so that he wouldn't feel left out. He ended up just ignoring us, and possibly getting pissed off, so we just left. So C started dating a new guy, who she eventually married, and spent a lot of time at his place. S had started dating a girl as well, but how he met her, or convinced her to date him, we will never know. The difference between the 2 was that S told C he didn't want them to bring new girlfriends or boyfriends to the house, but he kept bringing his new lady over. Well, one night C came home with her new boyfriend. They tried to be quiet and get up to her room without making a sound. It was about 2 a.m., and apparently shortly after they got back, so did S. Well, that couldn't have been a problem, except that he was drunk as hell. So he came into his room, started throwing things, and making a ton of noise for some reason or another. So C's new guy walks in there, says, "Hey man, we're tired and trying to sleep. Could you please just be a little quieter?" That's when he freaks out and just sucker punches the new boyfriend. Now I feel I should mention that this guy is about 6 foot, maybe about 200 pounds or more of all muscle. He apparently played some football during his undergrad and was tough as nails. So he takes the punch and is a bit surprised for a second, and then grabs him, slams him to the ground. Somehow he stays cool and just holds him there, telling S to just calm down and that he's not going to hurt him. He just wants to make sure that he's not going to get punched again. So after a few seconds, he lets S get up, and bam, he gets punched again. So he slams him to the ground and pins him. At this point, me and another roommate head upstairs to find S squirming on his chest, screaming, "I've got nothing to lose," which is a line that lives on in my group of friends to this very day. So her boyfriend decides to pick him up and hand him over to me, since I'm not a small dude and I can handle him. There's still a lot of screaming and threats going around, so the boyfriend just calls the cops on him while I try to calm him down outside. The cops get there. He starts mouthing off to them nonstop to the point that they warn him that they will cuff him and pop him in the car. So he goes for it. The next thing he knows, he is sitting back in the car while C's boyfriend shows the cops his bloody face. So they cart him off to jail for the night while another cop stays to talk to us. We had been standing outside in February with no coat, so we were shivering, and the cop looks at my friend and says, "You tweaking, boy?" Great cops in Indiana, let me tell you that. Cut to the summer. We have to go to court to testify about that night. The lawyer that S's family found was the worst, most disrespectful lawyer ever. Showed up late to court. Continued to ask the same questions over and over despite the judge telling him to just move on. Trying to change what we had said during the disposition, and so on. Oh, and he was from a Johnny Cochran law firm. C's boyfriend's lawyer laughed and laughed nonstop when he found that one out. I recently acquired a new roommate. The entire situation should never happened, but I needed someone to help with rent. So a Craigslist posting later, he had moved in. His name was Greg, and he discloses to me that he did have some strange sleeping behaviors. Sleep talking, walking, some night terrors. Funny thing was, I also had a history of sleepwalking, but only on rare occasions. The first incident occurred 1 week later when I heard him screaming in the middle of the night. Since we both slept in separate rooms on different sides of the house, the screams sounded pretty distant, but enough to scare me so much that I ran to go check on him. As I'd get closer to his bedroom, he stopped screaming, so I just went back to bed. For the next month, he had no issues. I noticed that he had no friends or family that would come and visit. I never saw or heard him on the phone or texting. Then another random night, Greg started screaming. Same thing. I got up and started going to his room, but then he would stop. Then one night, I was awoken by screaming in my bedroom. I couldn't see anything in the panic, so I turned on the bedside lamp, and he was at the foot of my bed, wearing some sleeping clothes. He scared me, so I started screaming, and I woke him up. He apologized, and then went back to bed. Then the scariest thing has happened. About 2 nights later, I woke up to clanking. Sounded like tools and hammers tapping. I turned on the light to see Greg kneeling in a corner working on something with his hands. A few seconds after turning the light on, Greg froze, then slowly turned his upper body around and started blankly staring at me while I laid in bed. I was beyond creeped out, so I slowly slid out of bed and left the house. After sleeping in my truck down the road in an empty church parking lot, I returned to the house at about 8 o'clock in the morning. He was gone. All of his belongings were gone. No signs of him anywhere. It was like he never even lived there. I didn't know any of his friends or family, so I had no one to call about him. Days had turned into weeks, weeks into months. When I moved out after the lease was up, I was moving furniture out of my bedroom. In the corner of my room where I last saw Greg kneeling down, I realized that the floor vent for the air conditioner was loose. Inside the floor vent was an envelope with a ton of pictures of me sleeping. The pictures had written dates and times written on the back of the pictures. The only other item was a whittled down wooden broom handle brought to a point. I truly believe that Craig was trying to kill me that night, and he realized it, because it was the sleepwalking Greg that was going to do it. He left to save my life. It appears Greg had been coming to my room almost nightly and working on making the broom handle a stabbing weapon, and I never heard it until the last night that I had saw him. In college, I had gotten an apartment with 3 dudes. I happened to be a girl. It was art school, so some crazy as expected, but this went above and beyond. These were nice guys, if a little immature. There were some annoying but hardly newsworthy points of contention. They never washed a single dish, filled the house with shit that they found at the dump, played insanely loud music. Then one of them, never a poster child for mental health, really began to lose it. It started with him getting a turtle. He kept the turtle in a tank full of water with an enormous cement block sticking halfway out of it, forgiving the purpose of giving the turtle something to climb up on. He claimed the turtle's tank, cleaned it himself, and brought the turtle worms to eat. Turtles don't eat worms. But my roommate didn't throw worms out. Instead, he kept putting the jars of worms in the kitchen. One day we woke up to find that he emptied the jars of worms into the bathtub so that they could live there with their brethren. What? I started staying at friends' places because this roommate had come home one day with a trumpet and began playing it at all hours of the night. One morning I come home to find this roommate had gone into my room, slashed at various possessions with a hunting knife, smeared paint on my walls, put onions in my bed, and left open containers of alcohol everywhere. When I confronted him, he said, "Miss Bean, you can't stay out all night and then come home and expect me not to have gone into your room and done some stuff." As I planned and executed my escape, my roommate's shenanigans continued. Among his offenses, he left the turpentine on the stove with the stove on 2 separate times. He left every single faucet in the house running full blast, left the front door open, and then left the apartment unattended. He laminated live goldfish to the kitchen table. When I talked to my other roommates about the crazy one, there was some general shifting from foot to foot. Some half-hearted agreements that the situation was out of hand, but a general unwillingness to deal with the situation with the defense, he's our boy. What are we supposed to do? Then they finally get evicted. They all went for a semester abroad, and I was left with all their insane, coddling mothers calling me and blaming me while I dealt with the landlords and everything else.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.